there, welcome to Gifted Guitars. Today we are continuing our work on this Telecaster style guitar, which I am building to raise awareness and funds to help fight against police brutality and racial injustice. I've really been taking my time with this guitar, trying to get it right. This guitar means more to me than I think any of the other guitars that I've made. What it stands for and what I'm learning through doing it has been so beneficial to me as a person, and I hope that it has been for you as well. And I'm not even talking about the technical aspect of the guitar, I'm talking about the history that's represented on this guitar. I'm talking about me as a person, how I'm growing, how I hope that you're growing. It's really moving to me, and I have a lot of hope for the future of our country, and I hope that we can make things better for everyone here. So yeah. That's why I'm spending so much time on this guitar. I want it to be a really nice guitar for whoever ends up owning it. Anyway, I'm using this guitar as a metaphor part of the time, and just like certain elements of our government, just like certain elements of our police departments, this guitar it's not where it needs to be yet. So the first step is we've got to take it apart and then put some time into it and then put it back together. So that's what we're gonna do next. So what I've found works really well with the guitar lacquer is to use a really fine grit sandpaper, just really gently over everything, knock down some of the higher lumps on the guitar. And then I go in and do what's called wet sanding, and I'm gonna do that with 400 grit, 800 grit, and 1000 grit. When I'm sanding it dry, there are little scratches that end up going into the guitar. It's kind of an aggressive way to go at those high bumps. But then when I try and refine it a little bit, I'm actually getting rid of a lot of that scratching with the finer and finer grit sandpaper. And what will happen is little pieces of guitar lacquer will flake off. If it gets caught in between the sandpaper and the piece that I'm working on, it'll actually scrape across the piece. So using the wet sanding technique really allows those little bits of lacquer to just sort of slide or glide instead of actually scrape into the guitar. Since this guitar has a really interesting texture in here, I'm using a foam sanding block for part of it just to sort of get into those spaces without getting too aggressive. This is really soft and squishy. So if I go in there with that, it'll sort of flatten things out, smooth things out without going right into those points. This isn't the recommended way of doing this. It's just something I'm trying because I haven't actually come across a guitar that has this much texture in it before. It is now the next day, and I have sprayed this a few times with a clear gloss lacquer. You can see there's really a shine on it now. Sanding it down and then putting the lacquer on top of the sand down guitar really makes it shine. It's gonna shine even more when I can polish it. I can't do that for about a week though. At around the 24-hour mark, you can start to really handle it and sand it, but I'm not quite there yet. So I'm not gonna touch the body or the neck for a little bit. I'm gonna do a little bit of prep work on the electronics and the hardware of the guitar. So yeah, let me show you a couple things that I've got going on. This is a good chance for me to get organized here. For example, I know I'm gonna use this scratch plate and not this one. Okay, it has been about a week. This feels really good already. Like, this is just gonna take minimal sanding, the neck. And there's a bunch of work I wanna do on the fretboard, but the guitar itself, first off, it's way shinier than it was, way smoother than it was, and I think this is gonna polish up real nicely. So right now, I have to take the neck off of this piece of wood that I was using to hold it while I was spraying it, bolt everything back together, and we can start the polishing process, which I'm pretty excited about. I think this is gonna turn into just a beautiful guitar. I was about to bolt the neck onto the guitar and I realized that I think I'd rather polish it without any metal parts on it, and that way there won't be anything like getting stuck anywhere. It'll just be a smooth transition between the guitar into things like the back plate and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna go straight into polishing this thing. So I have a whole bunch of sandpaper here. This is wet sanding sandpaper, which means I'm gonna be spraying the guitar with a little bit of water mixed with just a touch of soap so that the sandpaper doesn't put scratches into the guitar. And I'm starting with a really fine grit. It's 400 grit, that's pretty fine for sandpaper. But this sandpaper goes all the way up to 3000 grit, which is super smooth. It almost like doesn't feel like sandpaper at that point. But if I go with a progressively less aggressive sandpaper, eventually I'm gonna have a really smooth, shiny surface, which is what I'm going for. All right, there it is. Look how shiny it is. It's so shiny. It's so shiny. I didn't even touch the headstock or the neck. I felt like the top of the headstock already had a good shine to it. There wasn't much orange peeling to it at all. So I think it looks really good. And then I love the way the back of the neck feels. If I smoothed it out any more, it wouldn't have that satin finish that I really like. So yeah. I kind of left the neck alone. The body took some work. That it's hard to tell on these videos, but that is so labor intensive, and it's really like an arm workout. You're constantly sanding for hours and hours over and over again. But it turned out pretty cool. There's a good shine on it. Fairly smooth. This is a process that I'm still working on. I'm still trying to figure out how to do it the best, how to spray the lacquer on as evenly as possible and then sand it down so it's nice and glassy smooth. This is pretty close. It's not perfect. There's also like a few areas where the wood sort of chipped a little bit. The whole guitar kind of has this sort of rugged feel to it, so that doesn't bother me that much. There's a couple spots where while I was sanding, it got a little too far into the lacquer. It still has that sealer on it, so it's the guitar is protected still, but I kind of went through some of the black a little bit. That happened on Colleen's guitar as well. But yeah, I love the way this feels. It's a little lighter because I took some of the material out of this part of the guitar than the other Telecasters that I've built. But yeah, so far so good. Next step is to put in some of the electronics. So I don't think we'll get it finished this week, but we're gonna get as far as we can with the amount of time that we have. And it's time to break out the old soldering iron. Overall, fairly easy soldering today. Nothing too complicated. Hopefully I did it all correctly. If I didn't do it correctly, I'm gonna have to take it all apart and try again, which usually happens on these guitar builds. I'm ready for that. I'm okay with that. But fingers crossed, this could be a one solder wonder. Nothing's screwed in yet. Everything's loose in case I need to get back in there and do something. I'm gonna plug in my little practice amp, my test amp here, and see what kind of sounds we get out of this. This switch should be, oh, that's good news. Okay, let's go to the back switch. That's good news too. Okay, this switch should be, oh, that's good news. Okay, let's go to the back switch. That's good news too. And then we go to the middle position. We should be able to get both of them. Good. Sounds great. Sounds great. It's actually really silent. Usually in these positions here, you get a lot more buzz than this. You get a little bit. You can hear it a little bit. But in all my other guitars, that was much louder. And then when you get to the middle position, kind of quiet. All right, I'm gonna try something else here. I'm gonna mess with the tone knob and the volume knob. Not hearing too many problems here. This is sounding great. I'm so excited about this. Well, that is all the time that I have to work on this guitar this week, but I think we're in a really good spot. I think next week we will have a complete playing guitar. I can't wait to plug this in and actually hear what it sounds like with strings on it. I'm really excited about this guitar. Before I wrap up today's video, I do want to say a few things. First off, check out the links in the description box of this video. There are links to Black Lives Matter, to the NAACP. Both are great places for you to get information as well as great places to donate. If you find it in your heart and you are in a place where you can donate, right now is a great time to do that. There's a lot of change going on in the world right now, and really we have a chance to make a positive difference in this country and all over the world in terms of racial justice. I hope you've enjoyed watching me work on this guitar today. Be sure to tune in next time when we complete the guitar, I think. Hopefully that's what we do. And if you like what I'm doing here, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.